and we were hitting the mountains, and we were hitting intensities that again normally I would fall off the back, but not only could I hold the effort, what I found it relatively comfortable. Okay, so my name's Gary. I'm 60 years of age. I've been a very competitive triathlete now for the past 25 years or more. The distance I tend to do is the Ironman and the half Ironman distance. And for those people who don't know, an Ironman distance triathlon is a swim of 3.8 kilometres, which is the equivalent of about 160 lengths in the pool. A cycle of 112 miles and then a full marathon. And they're competed without stopping. Over the years now I must have competed well over 25 of the full Ironman distance, and I've lost count of the number of half Ironman distance. I am one of a handful of people who have done the Outlaw series, which is again the full distance and the half distance. I'm one of only 2 people who have done every single Outlaw full and every Outlaw half since 2010, and that's aiming for around about 39 different events now that entails. Plus I also do other events across the world or in England throughout the season. Training for Ironman is a year-long continuance, and the training varies throughout the year, and as you get older, obviously it gets more and more hard. And what I've found over the years is a lot of the more intense sessions that I do, I'll very often fail them because you'll get halfway through the session and you just have not got the energy or just not got the mental ability to continue with it because they're that horrible. And it was in November of last year that I started to use the NovoTHOR to look at how it could help with my performance and recovery. So winter training is very often quite slow and quite long training for the first month or so, and then coming to December and January, that's when the hard sessions start to begin. And when I say hard, they're the sorts of sessions that you are very much out of breath and you're holding that intensity for anything between 4 and 20 minutes. And I say these are the ones that historically over the winter that I've failed on. And it was quite a sea change because come January, what I realised was I'd not failed on one of them. And I just had the ability to dig that little bit deeper and just was able to trust my body that I'd be able to continue for that extra minute, that extra 30 seconds. And then what really made a big impact was in February of 2023, I went to Lanzarote training. And while I was out there, I was training on a couple of days with an ex-professional triathlete who was a bit younger than me. And we were hitting the mountains, and we were hitting intensities that again, normally I would fall off the back. But not only could I hold the effort, what I found it relatively comfortable. And on the second half of these rides, and these rides were lasting up to 3 hours long, I was actually taking the lead on the front. And added to that, I was also doing quite a bit of swimming in the sea. And I'll do a lot of the swimming on my own in quite a choppy sea, and you can lose a bit of confidence when you're doing that and quite easily cut sessions short. And what I found was I just got strength that I'd not had before. I wouldn't say speed, but strength. And it just felt as though the oxygen was going to the parts of the body that it needed to go to. And I was just able to do all the sessions well and strong. And then not only that, but be able to come out of the water. And then an hour later, I'll be doing a run again. So again, going back to my age of 60, that's pretty good and pretty different to how it's been in recent years. It was while I was out in Lanzarote that I said to my wife that something had changed. There was something fundamental that I couldn't put my finger on that was different. And it was my wife that said, I wonder if it's an NovoTHOR. And that is the only thing that's changed. My training is pretty identical to previous years. I have the same coach as I had last year. but touching wood, injury-wise, not a problem this winter. And I say every single one of those sessions I've completed. Now the icing on the cake was a few weeks ago when I did something that's called a functional threshold power test on the bike. And as any cyclist will know, that's a horrible, horrible test. For those who don't know, functional threshold power is the amount of power measured in watts that you can hold for an hour. And when I mean hold for an hour, it means at 59 minutes and 59 seconds, you're about to collapse. And the way that you test yourself for that is you can either do the hour session at that intensity, but most people will do a 20-minute session, and then you multiply the results by 0.95. Now I did that 20-minute session, and again this is one over the years that I would say I've probably only succeeded on 40% of the occasions, because it is horrible. You start off at an intensity that you think you'll be able to manage for the 20 minutes, and then if you think you've got a little bit more, you can add a bit more intensity. If you're starting to struggle, you'll lower the intensity. But it's the sort of thing that after 3 or 4 minutes, you're okay. By 5 or 6 minutes, then your heart rate is right up then. And invariably you're in quite a warm room, so you're sweating, and it's not necessarily the intensity that you're pushing it there and then, it's the realisation that you've got another 14 minutes to go at this effort. And that is very often the thing that will beat you. Now I did this functional threshold test the day I'd been on the NovoTHOR, and not only did I complete the test, but the figures I got, the data I got, was one of the highest, if not the highest, that I've ever had when doing a functional threshold test. And again, going back to being 60 years of age and getting increases in wattage and power, it says something, and I honestly believe it's down to this, which is the icing on the cake on top of the training and nutrition that I do. Okay, so initially, going back to November, I was using the NovoTHOR twice a week. Continued that through Christmas and into January, but since I've gone back from Lanzarote, I've been using it only once a week. That initially wasn't a considered decision, it was only due to the fact of other home factors taking over, so I just didn't have the time to come down. I've not noticed a significant drop-off since that point. I still feel that I'm getting the benefit of using the NovoTHOR. But I do think as well, going back to the initial period of twice a week, that was probably necessary to build the system up before the hard session started.